And I saw that man grab that little teeny phone, start calling people from the Berlin Philharmonic, from all over the world. And they were hopping down like bunnies to give their education to these kids because the message got to them. And the pivot of this conversation was what a leader can do. So these small things have grand scale. They have quantum leaps. So it is with you, Sylvester, with what you're doing with your podcast, with how we can collaborate together.
So what's going to happen by then with education, with the workforce, with our emotional skills and social skills when we have AGI in the market? Now, we know that it comes in 3 years. So we better get prepared and ready for that.
You are listening to the Global CTE podcast with your host, Sylvester Chisholm.
Welcome, my friend, to another episode of the Global CTE podcast. I am your host, Sylvester Chisholm. This is the place where we interview the best, the brightest, the movers, the shakers, and the innovators. Today is no different. I have my good friend, Erika Twani, and my good friend, Dani Bedoni, two amazing leaders in leadership as it relates to education. Now, let me tell you about Erika. She's a best-selling author, TEDx speaker, social entrepreneur, and Fortune 100 corporate veteran. She is driven by a deep passion for personalized education. With over 30 years of experience in the ed tech industry, Erika has witnessed firsthand the transformative power of personalized education in students' lives. This passion led her to join education experts in founding the Learning One-to-One Foundation, where she currently serves as CEO. Erika's expertise is widely recognized, and she's a sought-after speaker at national and international conferences on learning, innovation, ed tech, and AI. Now, let me tell you about Dani. She's a distinguished master coach with over 30 years of experience. She has guided hundreds of leaders toward a mindset of possibilities, renowned for identifying individual strengths, fostering growth, and offering transformative strategies for change, reinvention, and success. Dani helps leaders achieve the desired future self with clarity and purpose. But wait, there's more. Combine these two, coach leaders in 6 different languages. So what an incredible group that we have here today for this podcast. Erika and Dani, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Honored to be here with you, Sylvester.
I'm so excited about the depth of work that you both are engaged in, the way you push boundaries with leaders who are looking for that next level of growth, and how you help them to achieve those results, which directly and indirectly end up having that impact that we're looking for on preparing students for future success. So thank you for the work that you do. And just a little side note to our listeners, Erika and I met. We were both speaking at the Aurora Symposium in New Orleans, and I was sitting down having lunch by myself, and what a wonderful person to sit next to me at the table was Erika, and we struck up a conversation. I'm like, wow, you're super interesting. And then she told me she was keynoting the next day. So I'm like, okay, well, on our special to have this one-on-one time with you. So I said I had to have you on the show for the work that you're doing. And then you introduced me to Dani, another great leader. So before we jump into this, how do you two get here? What's the origin story?
Well, but I can get started.
Go for it. So,
Sylvester, I come from a background of entrepreneurship and also working, as you mentioned before, in the corporate world, specifically on technology. Companies like Microsoft, Oracle, for many, many years. And I had the great opportunity to work in the education industry while working on those companies and fell in love with education. I was visiting schools all over the world, seeing how we can tight technology into something that is meaningful for students, especially into personalized learning to enhance their experiences. And I found this school in the middle of nowhere, in a rural area in the country of Colombia that really, really impacted me. Imagine that you're going to a public school where students, families make less than $1 a day, and to have that enthusiasm for education, for learning, for being engaged, You really, really amazed and impacted me. And I hope to tell you a little bit of more details later on in this conversation today. And in such a way that it impacted me that I had to leave the corporate world to get Learning One-to-One Foundation started. So then we could scale that, what I saw in a public school, in a rural school, without any technology, with very limited number of books, but with that passion to learn. So that's how I got started. That's why we're here. Learning One-to-One Foundation has 13 years being out there and making sure that we have this structure and scalability, what we call a framework of learning how to learn.
Yeah, I have like 9 follow-up questions that I want to ask right now, but I'm gonna hold them. Dani, okay, I want to hear about you. Like, how do you get here? What's the origin story?
So as fast as I can, I was born in Italy. I was raised in the United States, and I went to Venezuela when I was 17 years old. And that's where the mindset of possibility starts, that you realize that your brain can really connect different things and everything is possible. I always say that our heads are round, so our thoughts can change directions. We cannot be static. We got to be like a wave. We got to move, and we got to, go with the flow. And that's when transformation comes in, when you learn new things. And I come from a family that the women were they were just leaders. My great-grandmother, my grandmother, my mother. I mean, they were all businesswomen. And I understood that being a woman could be very powerful at the same time. But the most important thing was education. What are you going to do to learn? And this is where Learning One-to-One Foundation really just strikes me as something incredible. And being part of the board and a business partner with Erika, it's just transformed my life. And one of the things that I did to learn was to study music, study business, and coaching in all these languages that you said. And I realized that my destiny was to help leaders go to the next level, understanding how it was done in Europe, how it was done in the United States, and then living in Venezuela for 33 years and really understanding, as Erika says, families that live for $1 a month, not even a day. How can you help them with education transform themselves and be their own leaders? And that's what I've been dedicating my life. I was a vice president of a company. I worked in the stock market, so I understood what business was like. So the coaching on health, wealth, and love, on a system that we do in the mindset of possibilities, it's just fantastic. And we'll talk more about that in the next questions that I'm sure you're going to have.
Okay, I can't help myself. I have to do this. Since you brought it up, I'm always super curious about relationships and learning from family, the wisdom that we receive from family. And so since you brought up, Dani, the strong women leaders that were in your family, like your grandmother or your great-grandmother, what's the best piece of advice that you received from your grandmother?
Know what you want, because when you know it, the answer is within you and you can just get it. Just ask the beautiful questions. What is it that you want?
Yeah.
Find a coach.
Yeah.
And you will arrive to any place you want. There is no limit.
Yeah. I received that. And I think that's something that so many people need to hear, because you can get caught up in like just doing things without clear direction. And even for like I know some of my friends that are super ambitious and they're just doing things, but it's like, then I have other friends that have great clarity on the goal. Like, I am trying to get here. This is my desired reality. This is my current reality. So it helps to have that clarity, like what you just said, know where you're going. Thank you. Thank you, grandmother. We appreciate that. Thank you. All right, let's move along. Erika, I want to bring it back to you for a moment here. Tell me a little more about the Learning One-to-One Foundation. What motivated you to co-found that? I heard a little glimpse of it as it relates to your time at the school you visited in Colombia. So I'd love to hear more of that story.
There's a great video on erikatwani.com that will share exactly the story. So I'm going to give you a glimpse.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in that school, I was going classroom to classroom as a K-12 school. And my last visit was in a high school, a senior classroom, in which I met many, many enthusiastic students. But one student struck me really, really much, which was a student in the back of the room. So I said, "Can I talk to that kid?" And they said, "Yes, we'll go talk to him." And I started a conversation with that student, and he was telling me that he was the president of the group of students in the school, that he loved communication, so he was speaking at the local radio, interviewing celebrities, and he was doing really well. He got a full scholarship to go to college, and I was like, it was blowing my mind. And after 20 minutes of conversation with that student, I had to leave the room because I was crying. When you have that moment of shock in your life and you realize, oh my goodness, what these teachers are doing for those children is amazing. They're dedicating their lives. They're transforming the whole life experience of those students because they decided that they are worthy of a meaningful education. Yeah. That student, Sylvester, is blind. Wow. He couldn't see. Wow. He had no business being in that school. And all of a sudden, because they were having a very transformative and innovative learning model, which is to develop learning autonomy of those students, they could be whatever they wanted to be. Like Dani was saying, when you have a goal in life, and it's not just for leaders, it's also for students, and start from an early age. So after that, I couldn't hold myself. I couldn't be in my corporate job and, in a secure, being so egocentric, as you said before, of some people that, leaders that just do what they have to do, just to get to that very little next step. It's bigger than that. It's much more impact. We can bring impact in a much larger way. So my experience working in the corporate world in America helped me to understand how to scale models globally. Okay. And my commitment was, let me leave the corporate world. Let me take what is happening here in the school, and let me put a framework which we can scale all over the world. And that's what happened. So Learning 1-to-1 is not just me. Is a lot of experts, teachers, psychologists, philosophers. We need all the sorts of, neuroscientists to understand how people learn, how children learn, and how to accelerate what we are doing right now with leaders, accelerate that so students can lead their lives. So the framework is, I share it in the book, Becoming Einstein's Teacher, which is the result of 15 years of research and development and also implementation that we have done with thousands of teachers, thousands of students, and schools in different countries in the world.
I love it. That story is so powerful and inspiring. And it says something about who you are as a person to be open-minded, to make that shift in your purpose, to have the impact.
Or to find the purpose.
To find the purpose and to make that greater impact. Tell me I want to hear a little bit more about the environment, like that school, like you said it was a rural community. Like, can you set the framework a little more around that?
Absolutely. A rural community.
Okay.
You can imagine those schools are very low income, and because of that, they have very little resources, limited number of books, no technology whatsoever, barely electricity. Some parents contribute to bring toilet paper to the school because they don't have toilet paper. Yeah. And that school was doing really, really bad in terms of, performance. Of course, parents are worried about getting the kids to school, but at the same time, getting them ready for the workforce, right? And at an early age, those parents make less than $1 a day. They usually work with agricultural type of business, right? Mm-hmm. And we hear students after a couple of years being in the school, we hear students nobody no longer have to tell me what I'll be in the future.
Yeah.
I decide what I'll be in the future.
Yeah.
So, and it's amazing to see children at the age of 10, 11 years old saying, in the middle of the rural area, saying, I'm going to study music in London. I'm going to study mechatronics in Germany. And here's the way how I found out how to do it. Because they know the way to research and how to get the information. They learn that because of this framework that we came up with that will allow them to be autonomous learners and make decisions by themselves.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And it made me think of a personal story. It's an organization I work with here called the Show Me the World Project, where we take youth from inner city St. Louis, teach them entrepreneurship and help to expand their worldview. We take them to places like Costa Rica and Nicaragua, Panama. And we were on a trip we were in Nicaragua, and I met this entrepreneur. I think his name was Antonio, and he had a restaurant in Nicaragua. You're going to love this, Erika, especially as this story you were telling me about the student in Colombia. Normal restaurant, except for they also made hammocks, right? Okay, this is like a thing. Some of the best hammocks in the world come from Nicaragua. I didn't know that. But so they're making hammocks, and it's a restaurant. But here's the thing. Everyone that worked in the restaurant was hearing impaired. So the hostess, the waitresses, the waiters, the cooks, the chefs, the young boys who were making the hammocks. Now, and here's the thing about it. It's like, so here in America, that's not a big problem. We get your hearing aid and you go on about your way, whatever, you can live a normal life. But there in Nicaragua, that was not the case. So it was like, these people are pushed to the side. They're just in the back room at some house with no meaning to life. But this wonderful social entrepreneur created this space for their life to have meaning. And he went on to be like, he was CNN world hero, and the Pope purchased a hammock from them. But it makes me think about that, like what you're saying, how you were inspired so deeply by that moment. I was equally inspired by by those students, by those young people, and the power of like social entrepreneurship and innovation, and like how we can really push our youth forward, if we're intentional about it.
And what is the destiny? What is the future of a blind child in a rural community, Sylvester? Can I tell you just a little more of that student?
I want to hear all of it. Yes, please, storytelling.
That student graduated from college.
Yes.
And became part of the Ministry of Communications of the country.
Yeah.
And created a national program that allows the blind and the deaf to watch movies while going to the theater.
Yeah.
And then he proceeded to do his master's degree. And the master's degree was to create a bill in which, approved by the Congress, in which every website in the country has to be adapted to ensure that it is inclusive of people with impairment. So imagine the life of that child without a proper education. He was being prepared to be a beggar in the rural community. And yet now he's transforming the experience of every citizen in one country. Can you imagine the impact of a transformative education?
And
that's where leadership comes in.
That's what I was going to say. 100%, Dani. That's what I was just about to say that. Like when you have leaders that understand that philosophy of the mindset of possibilities, like transformation can happen. And that's what happens. It's a viral impact. So that's why I was so excited to have you both on the show. Dani, I want to switch to ask you a little about your music background, the impact, the work you're doing within the education system with youth and composing music. And then there's like Philharmonic orchestras playing. Like, tell me a little about that part. How does that work?
Well, the first thing is, if we don't do this work, who's going to do it? So I think we start by that seed. We have with great power comes great responsibility, right, Erika? We always say that to ourselves. So we have a big responsibility. How do we use that destiny, that passion that we have within us? Yeah. My responsibility has been, what can I do to make my life better, my family's life better, my community better, and the world better? What can I do? So I looked upon a coach. I was very much into sports and music, and I had a coach in music and in sports guide me towards what is that mindset of possibilities, that what do I want to attain and how do I want to help others? And it came to a system, create a system. Why did I do music? Because I believe that in our hearts, when we're happy, when we're excited, when we're running, our hearts move. We jump with excitement. Our heart leads with joy. It's our heart and mind, when they're together, that's where we experience joy. So I think the journey from our heart to our mind is the journey of our life. And how do we balance that? So why music? Music, it's because it makes us happy. It gives us joy. So through studying music and realizing in Venezuela what a musical program that is, El Sistema, and what a musical program that we have in our lives. I mean, music kind of elevates our soul. So there's a system that we've created, which is explore in the mindset of possibilities. Mm-hmm. So in music, explore in conducting, explore in composing, explore in performing, explore if I was a very shy person, and music, when I gave concerts on one of the most important halls in Venezuela, el Teatro Teresa Carreño. You can't be shy. You just have to go. So it gives you that leadership inside of you. Yes. And number two, the community. So with music, it's like sports. We were talking about in San Luis, Missouri, the Cardinals, you put people together through music and sports, and that creates community. It creates great frequency and great energy. Yeah. It gives us joy as well. And we can help so many people through that. So what I've been doing is two things. Number one, educating the students to go to that next level. But number two, which is the most important thing that Erika and I believe very much so, is the leadership. Yeah. How through leadership can you move mountains of not just one individual, but of thousands of people, and not just the students, the families. So you really make a transformation, which is one of the most important things leaders have to learn, is to learn. And number two, to adapt to change. And we're in an era that everything is change. So that's how I use the music part.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to skip around a little bit since you just brought it up. You just brought up change. Okay. So I'm going to move into this conversation, the work you two are doing with the mindset of possibility system. We're coming out of this pandemic. So much in the world is different. It's so much has changed for everyone. AI is in here. It's also disrupting and changing things. How do leaders lead in times of transition? Like what insights? Give me a gem or two from the mindset of possibilities system.
Okay. Well, Erika and I are going to have a field trip with this one. Go ahead, Erika. It's all yours.
You can get started.
Well, the mindset of possibilities, again, it's the system that works. We've been doing it for decades and we've seen the results. And the most important thing, number one, is to explore. Explore who you are, what you want with our services of coaching. Right. We know how to ask the questions. And that is the most important thing, the questions that are beautiful, that are going to spark your inner answers that are already inside of you. Number two, we step up. We step up by learning what is it that you need to learn, by using and adopting the rituals that you need so they can focus the energy on what it is that you have to produce better for yourself, to master yourself. And number three, so you level up. So you use this leadership. You actually use your team to understand that we're all in this together. And this is how music also is a little apart, because it's an orchestra of people. That's your team. Everybody has their specific thing that they do well. The leader doesn't have to learn the specifics. The leader has to really inspire the team to go to understand that we're all in this together. So we explore, we step up, and we level up to greatness.
I like that. I think that's
Erika, what would you like to say more about that?
Yeah, Erika, I want to hear your thoughts. I'm watching you now. I feel like the wheels are turning. What do you have to add? I want to hear it.
I'm just recalling here, Sylvester, that back in September, one of our good friends that led a huge research in the UK presented a research that says that 90% of leaders implementing any kind of transformation, specifically AI, implement using something that they know. So, for instance, if they have experience with ChatGPT, they're going to focus on ChatGPT. If they have experience with Amazon Alexa, that's what they're going to do. So it's always based on what they know. Not always, but 90% of the time. And that report had a great importance in the UK in such a way that it was presented back in September at the House of Lords, which is the equivalent of the Congress here in the US. So a couple of things that are very important in terms of this time of transformation that leaders must embrace, right? First of all, is to expand their knowledge. It's very important because if 90% of leaders are implementing based on something that they already know, we need to expand that. Yeah. And that's when the mindset of possibilities also come, because now you can combine all this knowledge that you are acquiring by participating in conferences, by reading books, by watching videos, by watching documentaries, talking to people, talking to ed tech companies. So having that breadth of knowledge is very important for a leader to drive innovation in their school. The second thing is the preparedness of their teams, right? So professional development is extremely important, but here's the caveat, is to ensure that we focus first on the pedagogical aspects, because there's some leaders that focus too much on technology. You bring technology to the classroom and teachers don't know how to do it or how to use it. So extremely important for, first of all, have a very clear pedagogical framework and then add technology to it as a tool. Yeah. And the third thing is to have a plan, right? Any implementation is just not throw the technology in the classroom, but ensuring that we have a very clear plan with a specific time frame and specific goals for each of those steps to ensure the success of any implementation. And as a matter of fact, there's we can share with the audience, Sylvester, later on. We have a white paper recently published that we can share that guides leaders, school leaders from both K-12 school systems and universities and colleges to adopt AI, but always considering teaching and learning at the top.
Yeah, definitely. We'll make sure we put the link to that white paper in the show notes where you want people to go to get access to that for sure. I love what you said, and it's making me think about something personally. Like as a leader, I try to a space I try to operate from. It's like you can't stay loyal to old ways that are no longer serving you. You know, so it's like something may have worked in, like we all have been doing this a long time. Something may have worked in 2020 or 2015 or 2010. Like you can't stay loyal to those things that are no longer serving you. So I love that you said expanding the knowledge base helps us get to that next level of innovation if we stay open-minded and not rigid to keeping that growth mindset. Just say that. Keeping that growth mindset of moving.
I'll give you another piece of information.
Go.
So in the white paper, as well as in the keynote that you participated in a couple of months ago, we discussed the 3 levels of intelligence that we must develop with students today, specifically because of what you're mentioning, right? Once came COVID and we had no idea what to do. We were not prepared for that. And it came AI, even worse. We don't know how to handle it. I mean, how are we going to, think traditionally, as you said, what worked 3 years ago doesn't work today anymore. And what's next? What's coming? Today, AI can develop videos by itself and read books and summarize, videos and create images. Something that just 2-3 years ago it was inconceivable in our heads.
Yeah, or you would have spent the whole semester doing. That can be done in like
exactly, or a whole lifetime to have the experience to do something so good,
right?
And even pass the bar. You and I would have to study how many years to go past the bar, and AI can pass the bar like this. Yeah. So it's impacting the way students are learning today, and we need to rethink the way that education is delivered to students, but at the same time, what we have to develop in them. The first one is IQ, of course. I mean, we have to have basic math and literacy. We must make sure that we continue to develop that with students. The second one, of course, is EQ, which is the emotional side, and given all the experience that students are having since COVID, that has impacted significantly their emotional and social engagement, is extremely important to ensure that we are focusing on developing student social emotional skills. And then the new one is AQ, which is all about adaptability. How are we preparing our students, ourselves, to ensure that we are adaptable to anything that comes along? Who knows? I mean, in 3 years, did you know this? In 3 years, experts are predicting that we're going to have the AGI, which is called artificial general intelligence, which is when artificial intelligence reaches the level of a human brain and are capable to do what we can do today. So what's going to happen by then with education, with the workforce, with our emotional skills and social skills when we have AGI in the market? Now, we know that it comes in 3 years. Mm-hmm. So we better get prepared and ready for that.
100%. And I came across a blog post that you wrote on erika.twani.com on your blog. And it says, are you, this question is in alignment with what you're just saying, are you one of those who insist on being oblivious to the impact of efficiency using AI in the job market? And I think that's so incredible to think about right now. And you have these names listed here as we think about the evolution of AI. Mark Zuckerberg, 2010 net worth $4 billion, 2022 $64 billion. I know he's huge on AI. Jeff Bezos, 2010 $12.6 billion, 2022 $114. And Elon, which is really interesting here, you have 2010 600 million, 2022 180 million, and I just looked it up on my phone today in 2024 155 billion. So yes, they have other things going, but the impact and the way company and the entrepreneurs of today are leveraging AI for major impact is incredible. And the biggest one that I really hate to see this number, you have minimum wage, $7.25 an hour, still around $7.25 an hour. So it's like we have to make that shift in education and what we're preparing, how we are preparing our students. But then that starts with, which is why I love having you both here, that mindset that you all talk about in your leadership coaching. It starts with the leaders. It really starts with the leaders wanting and believing that they need to go to a next level if they want to have success and impact.
Sylvester, this really, let me chime in on how important leadership is. So now you know my background in music.
Yes.
So the leaders would stay in my house in Venezuela, like as a host, and they would stay, I want to see what you're doing here, and I want to stay in your house, and I want you to coach me. These are leaders of the world in music. I'm going to tell you one name right now, Claudio Abbado. Okay. Claudio Abbado was one of the most influential conductors in the world, and he really understood what music is. He told me his story, and when he went to Venezuela and saw what we did, he went like, I want you to coach me while you're doing this. But as I was coaching him and telling him this disparity that you we're just talking about, what happens in Latin America, which is, the haves and have-nots and the disproportion of area, but that we were teaching a transferable skill was music. I was also teaching these kids English, which is the international language. And I saw his spark when I asked the question, the beautiful question that I did when we were coaching. And I saw that man grab that little teeny phone, start calling people from the Berlin Philharmonic, from all over the world. And they were hopping down like bunnies to give their education to these kids because the message got to them. And the pivot of this conversation was what a leader can do. So these small things have grand scale. They have quantum leaps. So it is with you, Sylvester, with what you're doing with your podcast, with how we can collaborate together, that we plant the seed. And that seed, if we water it correctly and we give it to the leader that has it, we can see the change, because I have in my lifetime seen the transformational skills, how it can help people that come from no past, no present to create the future that they want. Yeah. So think about that.
I thank you, Dani. That's so powerful, that story. It's the belief system. And I know that's so important, like for our leaders to believe that they can be that type of leader that creates that level of transformation that you just described, with orchestrating orchestras and from all over the world, or to be the teacher that leads the impact in the classroom in Colombia, or all the hundreds of thousands of leaders that you all are coaching to move them forward to have that proper mindset. One thing I want to go back to this, Erika, because I think it's part of that personalized learning that we're talking about here, is the autonomous learning. And I want to get really tactical here. Give me something like, how can that autonomous learning be best applied by educators?
If you think that the educators and leaders that are listening to us, when you have a child and that child starts brushing their teeth by themselves and eating by themselves and walking by themselves, that's all being autonomous. And the interesting thing is that a child wants to do that. There's research that from the Columbia University that found that people are born being autonomous. They want to be. This is a human nature. So developing autonomy and learning autonomy, it's human nature. So it's not that challenging, first of all, for people to understand. The second thing is that just thinking about it, oh my God, how am I going to leave my 20, 30 students in the classroom doing whatever they want to do and learning whatever they want? Well, first of all, it doesn't work that way. It has a structure. And it's very important, like any child growing up, to have a structure. It's very important to give structure to the development of learning autonomy in the classroom. And that's when we created the framework, the 6-step framework, which I share in the Becoming Einstein's Teacher book. It's clear the way that what you do this first and second and third and fourth, those are the steps. Now, the beauty of this is that many schools that try to do that before, first of all, and they're successful, there are pockets of innovation. It's just one school. It's just, one school here and there. But how can we scale that in the public education system? That's another story. So that's the importance of having a framework in which it becomes very simple for teachers and students to understand and apply. And then content and curriculum become an excuse to practice the skills development. For instance, the first step is goal setting and planning. So how do we make sure that students are able to do themselves? What am I going to do today? What is my schedule? How am I going to distribute this content that I have to learn in the day, in my week, in my month, and sometimes in the year? What kind of goals I need to set to myself? And then at the end, evaluate all of that to see, did I accomplish what I planned for myself? So all those parts are very related to how the brain works. And you see the research in the book as well, the neuroscience behind learning, and also how AI learns. AI, if you read a little bit more about AI is an autonomous learner. Let me give you an example. Your Tesla. You have a Tesla that has a lot of cameras around the car, right? And that Tesla has a database of information and is recording everything that is happening around that driving moment. It records about 4 terabytes of data every day. And discard whatever is not useful later in the day. But the most important thing is that based on that information, the car is deciding what to do. Do I keep on the lane? Where is the lane? So I have to be on the left side or the right side of the lane. Oh my God, there's somebody crossing the street. I have to stop. There's a car coming, so I have to deviate from that car. I have to go through this direction. So the car is making all those decisions, autonomous learner and also a decision maker, right? Yeah. That's why the car can drive by itself. And even we have now something that is extremely important and that we have heard in the past is, why do we have to include philosophers and psychologists in the development of a Tesla model? Well, because you have important decisions to make. For instance, if you're driving your Tesla, there's a truck crossing in front of you, and there's a kid playing the ball on the right side, and an old lady in the street on the other side. What do? Yeah. You hit the truck and kill the driver, you go to the right and kill the kid, or you go to the left and kill the old lady. So those type of decision-making processes are all part of an autonomous learner skill. Yeah. So that's why it's so important for us to make sure that we have all those areas of the human behavior developing such a framework. So it's not just like a simple, it's just another framework. It has a lot of thought and a lot of research and a lot of neuroscience behind it to ensure that we have the proper skill development with our students.
Thank you for going into such great detail. And I love the example. You painted a great picture there with the Tesla. So I know we're closing out here. I'm super excited about all of these wonderful ideas you all are sharing for our leaders who are listening. That is our audience here, people who want to go to that next level. I know there's a wonderful book coming from this work of the Mindset of Possibilities. But I want to close out with this one question. What's your vision for the future of career and tech education? And I'm curious how you all even frame this around the mindset of possibilities and from a leadership lens. But go ahead, please jam up.
I can give you a glimpse.
Okay.
A lot of people today, a lot of schools are using technology, especially AI, because as you said before, Sylvester, we need to include AI just because in the future, students will work with AI anyway. So we got to make sure that they are working with AI today. And otherwise, they will use AI in a not good way, like we have seen happening in a couple of schools, creating videos with somebody's face or pictures and posting online. So students have no idea how to use that. So it's very important for us to ensure that students are also prepared and educated on how to use AI properly, right? And the ethics behind it. Now, a lot of schools today are using AI as tutors, which is pretty much replacing the teacher in some way, help students when teachers are not there, right? Well, it's very important, very nice. However, we must make sure that we open our minds. And that's why we love working with leaders and ensure that the first thing that they do is to expand the mindset of possibilities that they have. So let me give you an example of how we see learning happening in the near future.
Okay.
Imagine that we have a group of middle school students, let's say 3 of them, that want to clean the oceans of the world. They have this passion. That's to Gen Z, right? They're very passionate about their causes. So they work with AI. They research on the web. They read papers. They watch videos. and they read some books. After a couple of weeks, they ask AI to summarize everything that they have learned in a concept paper. So now you have a concept paper in your hand. Well, what do you do with this? Just get some grades with the science teacher? Absolutely not. You ask AI to go to LinkedIn and find potential investors that can invest in your idea. You ask PowerPoint to develop a presentation so they can convince those investors, based on past experience of those investors, how to present well, right? And then let's say that the idea is to develop an app. So they ask ChatGPT to create a code, and they cut and paste and put in GitHub, and voila, you have a prototype that you can present to your potential investors. Now, those students are middle school students. They are not experts on environmental cleaning. They are no experts on investments. They are not experts on developing PowerPoint presentations or even coding, but they know how to ask questions, because that's the very, very basic thing, as Dani was saying, how to ask the beautiful question, how to prompt, right? That big question that will give us the necessary answer, that will put all the dots together and solve a problem that the world has today.
I love that. Asking, I'm going to use Dani's word, asking beautiful questions. That's, I like that. That's good. That's good. Dani, you want to wrap a bow on this? What do you have?
Four principles. Number one, remember to listen.
Yes.
Listen to yourself, listen to others. What do we need? Principle number two, ask those questions, because that's going to open the gates to all the answers that we need. And the gates to all the answers could be by, as we were using music before as a transferable skill, now we can use AI as a transferable skill of giving leadership. So number three, have that team understand that they have to be leaders, that the students have to be leaders, not just the leaders being leaders, the students get the leadership from within. And number four, accountability. This is where you have a coach and a mindset of possibilities to really have like a soundboard. And remember, studying music, I can listen to what you say and what you don't say. I can look at the opportunities. So to enhance, we're going to have more time with AI. So grab that time to become more human, to really talk, converse, talk to each other, and to go to that next level, because what we want is to master ourselves, to leave a legacy, to make this world a better place. And we can do it. And now we have AI to do it. So to wrap it up, one of the things that Erika and I do is we coach about this. We coach to the students, to the staff, to the leaders, to the community, to the parents. We're more connected than ever. And that's what we have to remember. Look at this. A Zoom call. We're in different places. Colorado, New York City, and
St. Louis. Yeah.
Where you are.
Yeah. No, you're good. You're so right. And I love that, what you said, mastering your, I know you all do. That's why I had to have you both on the pod, because as I was doing my research, I'm like, this is the innovative leadership you all have been doing for decades in your work, and are helping others to make that impact that they need. So I know our audience is full of leaders who want to go to that next level. For those who are ready to maybe take a step forward, or maybe interested in either booking a keynote or coaching, Dani, Erika, where do we want them to go? Please tell me.
You go to www.mindsetofpossibilities.com.
There it is.
Very simple and sweet. Mindset of possibilities.
Dani, Erika, thank you so much for sharing so many great insights to our listeners. Thank you for going on this journey with us. I know it was insightful. Hopefully you take some of those gems. And I want to say, don't be selfish. Share it with a friend. Share this interview with a friend who needs to hear this, especially as we think about leading in the new year. That's so powerful and important. So connect with Dani and Erika, the mindset of possibilities. You implement this work, and transformation will happen for yourself, your district, and your community of students and parents. If you enjoyed this episode, share it, like it, and subscribe. Until the next episode, remember, you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Global CTE podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to be the first to know about future episodes.